Hello, and welcome to the IP Author podcast, where we're talking all things AI and IP. I am your host, Saskia from Ryneveld, actress and CEO of Executive Communications Coaching.
And I'm Rayani, CEO of IP Author.
So, Samir, tell me, what is happening in the world of AI and IP?
Well, this week, I had the opportunity to present to the shareholding group of a fairly large law firm. And that was quite interesting. We were talking about AI agents and how they're going to make the leap over from helping coders to helping attorneys, and what it means when you're running a large law firm. What does it mean about the billable hour?
Yeah.
How are the clients going to react to having agents be doing all this work? It was a very interesting discussion. I'd love to talk more about it.
Of course, yeah, but because we've been talking a lot about Claude Code, and we've been talking about agents, and we've been talking about deploying your army of minions, and now it's kind of the practical question of how are somebody who's a lawyer or a big law firm, how are they going to start integrating this into their workflow? What does that mean? Are the AI agents going to take over everything, or is it a tool that they need to learn how to use? How do they start learning how to use it? So what were the main messages that you were able to share in this presentation?
Well, my message to them was that the agents are here. They can run autonomously, at least for short periods of time. They are going by themselves for longer and longer. They are getting better. They are able to create some self-improving loops. So, for example, if you say, okay, here's my input, here's the output, figure out what is the best way for you to take this input and get this output consistently, right?
Yeah.
And it will try to do that, right? It will spend hours looking for different alternative ways to get from A to B. So the first job I had was to just communicate to the larger body, right? Like in every organization, like in every community, there's some people who are at the cutting edge, who are keeping abreast of all the trends. And then there are those who are busy doing other things, and therefore they are not like on Twitter 24/7.
No.
So first job I had was to just make sure that everybody knows what agents can do. So instead of showing them some coding harness like a command line tool like Claude Code, I actually showed them what IP Author can do with the agentic capabilities, right? Where the agents are autonomously doing different tasks, such as drafting patent applications or conducting a search and then doing the research and downstream analysis all autonomously. So I showed them those tools, and that was the starting point of the discussion.
And did you find that people were generally excited about it, or were they a little bit nervous about it? What was the general feedback and energy that you got?
What's your guess?
I think it must have been a mixture. As always, you're going to have people who are very excited about new technology, and then you're also going to have people who are kind of completely overwhelmed and have no idea where they're going to start. And then maybe there's somebody who is a little bit in between. So, and it's a bit of a cop-out.
No, give me some ratios, like, positive, negative. Let's just go with the positive, negative ratio. What do you think?
I'm imagining that maybe you might have had 30% extremely positive, really excited. I'm imagining maybe, 50% kind of apprehensive, but seeing the potential. And then maybe you had a kind of another 20% who are just freaked out and have no idea where they're going to go.
No. I think it was. I didn't see very many people in the room who are like positive and like, this is going to change the world for us for the better. There just wasn't enough of that.
Okay.
I think about 70% of the people in the room, 80% were either apprehensive or downright angry, right?
Okay, of course.
And again, this tracks, right? This tracks with all the polling that every single polling agency has done especially in America, in the last couple of years, actually. AI has been polling negatively compared to any other new technology in forever, right? It just, people have not been able to take it very positively.
And do you think that's because there's been quite strong fear mongering, perhaps? And maybe there's some people who would even argue that there's not been enough, that this is sort of the Pandora's box and this thing that we're playing with. And, you could go into all the kind of dystopian stories and films that have been made about the AI apocalypse and what that creates for humanity. But then from your side, being somebody who's in the industry, who's actually seeing how these tools are working in the real and seeing their capabilities, but also their limitations, do you feel like there's been a bit of fear mongering in this whole sense? And that's why people are so nervous about it.
I want to throw up this chart that came into my mailbox earlier this morning.
Okay.
And we just spoke about it like a moment ago, right? This is the chart, right? It is from Thorsten Slock, who has been, who sends this wonderful newsletter every morning. He's saying basically, so this fear mongering is not new, right? Jeff Hinton, who is called the father of modern AI, he said we should stop training radiologists in the year 2016. That was exactly a decade ago.
Wow.
Here we are in 2026. The number of radiologists has continued to grow at a fairly steady pace. The average income has also pretty much crossed $500,000 a year.
Wow.
And this doesn't seem to have stopped. So basically, my sense is that the fear mongering has reached somewhat crazy levels. It doesn't make much sense at this point anymore to me. Like here we are, right? Like just an instance from last night. We've got all the best tools and Cloud Code and all the latest agents and all the engineers are using it and, they love it and so on.
Of course.
Well, yesterday, one of our clients had an office action that was not completed in like it took it more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something like that, right? And so our systems get an alert that, something is stuck in the queue. And so, we're like, okay, let's get the agents to figure it out. And so we put the agents on it. And then we put engineers on it. And then the senior engineers got onto the act. It's been more than 24 hours. We don't have an answer yet.
So the AI wasn't able to solve it, and then the human engineers coming in. that was the final resort, and so it can't solve everything.
Not just that. I mean, I think there's a parlor trick kind of element to AI. There is a here's what I know very well, I can execute well element to
Sure.
AI. And all those things are obscuring the immense amount of capabilities that a human being has, right? I mean, you yourself have been using AI quite a bit. I mean, what is your experience? How would you?
Completely. I speak to you and I get very excited about all the possibilities and all the different things that can be built. And I'm thinking, I can take my love of spreadsheets and I can build this this empire of AI agents who can do all the research that I want it to do. And then it's going to be able to predict all sorts of things for me and it's going to save me a lot of time. But to be honest, I'm still stuck in that phase of figuring out how to interact with the AI. And I've really been learning that it's as much about, what I say and the instructions that I give and then my kind of commanding voice through the trajectory of the project that means that it's successful or not. And sometimes it's very exciting and you see, can quickly put together this little thing that you've been agonizing over for a couple of hours. But then there's another moment where, I'll ask it to do something. I think, recently I've been updating my website and I've been kind of trying to fix those sorts of things. And I thought, maybe I'll have a go at asking it to kind of construct a whole new website for me. And and we were just going in circles and circles. And I think either that's my instructions, my process of interacting with the AI, or there's a part of it that also, maybe there's that limitation in terms of, not necessarily what it can do, but what it can do in interaction with me. So it's a tool, right? This is what we've been talking about. It's a tool, and you've got to learn how to interact with it, and what the best way is to get it to do the thing that you want it to do. And so that's where I'm at in my AI journey.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's what we are seeing, right? The AI is very good at certain tasks where we have trained it well, where we have refined its capabilities, where we have tuned it well. It's very good at those types of tasks. And then once it gets beyond that, and human beings do so many things, right? And as soon as you go slightly beyond that, and now you are in uncharted territory, and you never know what you're going to get back. You don't know how reliable it is, how fake it is, there's just so much supervision is involved with those things. So I think where my mental model is right now, I don't know about yours, but my mental model is that this is a tool that you have to really supervise extremely carefully. Once you when you write a regular tool, let's say you wrote a VB script for your spreadsheet, you painstakingly read each and every step of the calculation, and then that final analysis that it presents, the final number it presents is absolutely golden. Here, you tend to kind of not pay as much attention, and that's super dangerous.
Yeah, completely. And also, there's a bit of a sense of, especially when I'm asking it questions and I'm kind of thinking through processes and so on, that it'll dump a whole lot of information on me, and I'm not actually going carefully through each line. I'm sort of skimming as I'm reading through it to see if I think that this is going to be, generally what I'm looking for, and that is interesting because you think that it's giving you so much information, but you're not actually absorbing all of that information. You're just, it's a little bit like a fast food diet of information and product work back. So again, coming back to the role of the human instructor, the human filter, that role is so important. And are you also noticing this with the clients who are interacting with IP Author, that those who seem to be getting the most benefit out of it really understand this role of them as the main operator, as that command person? Is that what you're seeing in terms of people who really? Yeah,
I think the people who are using the platform most successfully have both a level of a focus that they can really diligently look through all the issues, but at the same time they are very good at actually identifying opportunities for how to make the best use of these tools, right? So that is really the combination where we are seeing the most traction, the most success, right? Those who are using it, those who are combining those two, hey, can it do this? Let me try it. And then when it does it, they're paying attention and saying, yes, this is correct. Those people are getting the best results out of it, right? And especially as we get into a more agentic world where the tools are able to do more, there's a lot of what the phrase is capability overhang, right? Our tools have a lot of capabilities that we ourselves haven't fully explored. So, we rely on users sometimes to tell us hey, did you know that you could do this with your tool? That's because, the agents. And then we go in and perfect those capabilities and fine tune them. But we definitely see that those who are able to kind of push the limits and then supervise are getting the best results out of using technology like ours.
And so when you're responding to people, like you might have come across in the presentation that you did, people who are really terrified about what's going to happen in the future. Is this going to take all of their jobs? Is it going to make them obsolete? What are the things that you're saying to them? I imagine, a lot of what we've been talking about now, but what are the things that you're saying to them?
Yeah, my take is that one has to absolutely I mean, there's no point being terrified with these technologies. There's no point, being like exaggerating their value, etc. At the same time, there's no point ignoring these technologies either. So, what I recommend to to this firm and to others is the same thing, right? Go ahead, try all these capabilities and incorporate what you can right away, right? Do not hesitate, do not wait, correct? These are not difficult technologies to understand, right? They are difficult to perfect, to fine tune for your use case, to get them to that 99% plus accuracy levels. But to try out, to understand how they work, it doesn't take a whole lot. So that is the first thing I tell them, right? The next thing I tell them is identify scenarios where you can really, really add value with these technologies, right? Where it's a force multiplier. Go for it, lean into it, because you're going to get the results, correct? There's so much improvement at every level. The models are improving, the agent harnesses are improving. So with all of that sort of layering of capabilities, you're going to get good results in a subset of activities that you do, and that'll make you a lot more successful, right? That has been my messaging, and I see that consistently, and we have to show the results. So the cool thing that we did yesterday was, instead of showing them like Claude Code or something like as an agent harness, we showed like, our own platform as an agent harness, how it can orchestrate the work of multiple agents doing work in a sequence or in parallel, and how it is easy for them to understand and digest. That really struck a chord, right? Because now they could say, oh yeah, I see how this whole thing works. Whenever I describe Claude Code by itself to people as an agent harness, most people they really don't want to engage with that. Right?
Yeah. Well, I can understand in a way, because it feels like that the next level. I think everybody's just got used to LLMs. Everyone's like, okay, I understand what we're doing. I've got ChatGPT. I'm busy like organizing and getting it to, do some sort of high level searches for me. It's helping me think through sort of processes and different things that I need to do. I've got it creating, PowerPoints for me and doing all of that sort of thing. But now you're talking to me about an agent harness and then these kind of individual agents. And that sort of feels like, whew, okay, that's the next level.
Yeah, I think it's a usability challenge also, right? Like, I mean, perhaps that's why they haven't made agents available in, the ChatGPT product online, right? The agents are all sitting inside, like in case of OpenAI, inside their Codex product, or in case of Claude, they're sitting inside the Claude Code product, but they're not like available through, Claude.ai
Just the
or
general,
ChatGPT. So I assume they are really not. They're not ready to tackle either the usability challenge, or they don't have enough GPUs, or they don't have enough power. Not clear what the limitations are. But we are powering ahead. We are providing the agents as part of our tools, and these agent harnesses are pretty good. They are integrated. They are kind of not like standing out and announcing that we are agents. Instead, they are just sort of just merged into the workflow, and that seems to be going well.
Okay, so actually, how does it work when you go into IP Author? So instead of the agent harness that is Claude Code and its particular kind of interface, and because I think it's important for people to be able to imagine exactly how this works, because we can imagine talking to an agent and then it producing things for us, but then to imagine deploying different agents and then them doing the work for us. So if I go into IP Author, for example, how is it that it's become the agent harness system? Explain it, if you can give me a bit of
I don't want to overstate or exaggerate, but today you go into IP Author, you say, okay, draft me a patent application, here's the invention disclosure, so it goes through all the steps, drafts the patent application, and along the way you have questions, right? So you say, I found this piece of prior art, can you just make sure that the claims are overriding that piece of prior art, or at least working around that piece of prior art, so that we don't get stuck with it, and the claims will be updated. At the same time,
And is that request then kind of creating an agent? Is that request being then given to an agent to go off and do that
Correct.
particular task?
Correct.
Okay.
So there's one agent, like, one sort of branch, one LLM doing that particular task, right?
Okay.
But then, we then say, okay, like there are other agents that are capable of handling other aspects of the work, such as, refreshing or redoing the drawings, rewriting the patent specifications, right? The claims agent is now asking the other agents, like, hey, do you see any impact of this change? And it's saying, okay, can you go figure it out, please? And do it, just figure it out. And the other agents come back with a plan and say, these are the things we think need to be changed, right? And then the user, you'll go and say, yes, go ahead and execute those changes, right? And they'll execute those changes, they'll prepare those changes and say, we're ready. Should we apply them to your full draft? Or was it just an experiment you were doing and you don't want to change the draft, right?
Yeah.
And of course, when you do Claude Code, right, like they have under the hood, there is the whole GitHub architecture where in GitHub, all the code is being updated and things like that. So, when if this engine screws up in some way, it won't be catastrophic. Though, here's the thing. While code, there's not been any instance, as far as I know, of code being completely destroyed. These agents have gone on and destroyed data sets, right?
I think I saw a story about this.
You saw a story, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, basically somebody had a production database, they pointed Claude Code to the production database and boom, it was gone, right? And hopefully they had a backup process that was reliable and so on, but that is a risk. Well, in our world, right, like we don't want those risks. So,
No.
But we also don't have like, code being stored in GitHub because, these are patents, not code. So in that case, we have to make sure that like all of this agentic activity is being logged, it's being tracked, and we are able to roll back, right? We are able to go to a previous version and so on. So that is a big challenge that we have.
So there's a history feature that
Correct.
you also have? Okay. So you can always go back to a previous version of whatever it is that you've been working on. And so all the changes or updates, it kind of gets suggested to you and then you can accept or you can go back. Okay. So yeah, I'm just, as you've been describing it, I'm trying to imagine somebody, who's coming along using IP Author, it's a Tony. You come down, you're right, setting up your laptop, open up everything, right? What's the first thing that you need to do? Go into IP Author, you're chatting to IP Author agent and saying, right, I need you to do this. And then it goes off and it starts working. And so you make your nice little cup of coffee because maybe this is the first thing that you're doing in the day. And whilst you're making the cup of coffee is the process that you were explaining to me, where it's busy, the one agent's busy doing this particular activity, and then the other agents are chatting to it and going, are we in coordination? Are we syncing up? Does this need to be updated? Does that need to be updated? And then by the time our attorney has come back with his cup of coffee, maybe he's got a nice little pastry as well, because it's always nice to start the morning with a pastry, as bad as that nutrition advice would be, and then comes back and all of this has been done for him or her, and she can review and accept the changes or not. Is that the right way to
that is the workflow at this point in time, and it'll continue to evolve at some point soon. Users will be conducting multiple projects at once. It all comes down to attention, right? Like how much attention can we provide to this? How much attention each project needs, right? Can you handle 1, 2, 3, 4 patent applications running in parallel? I think at some point you hit some cognitive walls, but at this point, yes, you can launch a couple of projects and get your coffee, come back, you give you work through you review what has been produced for you. You again fire off the agents to do some refinements that you have lined up, and then you can be doing another activity in the meantime, right? Like you could be writing your emails, completing other tasks by the time the agents are done with the recommendations. So it is a fairly, I mean, it is iterative, but the process, while each iteration runs, there's a lot that is being accomplished, and it is being done relatively autonomously without you having to, change every word or phrase and things like that.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is the attorney's opinion and it's their taste and it's their decision as to what the final product is and the direction that everything goes in. So again, it's the tool and it's your minions doing the work for you, but not necessarily trying to do it without you. Yeah.
You mentioned taste. I also emphasized that in my conversation with the law firm yesterday. I said, there's a lot to be said about taste, and you need to be able to teach the taste to these tools, right?
Yeah.
And it takes some work. It takes a lot of work to communicate that taste, but it can be done. It is being done. Those with the best taste are able to get really great outcomes for out of their the work product. Like you can see that, right? Like, I mean, you will see, now I can recognize a slide deck that has been built by Claude, right? Because it has the same sort of font family, it has the same style
Very
and
much.
all that. And they look more professional than, something that was built from, the clip art provided by Microsoft Office 365.
But Microsoft.
Yeah, but then they still follow a certain pattern, and you could still crowd them up with lots of unnecessary information, and you can still do all sorts of things that will sort of go against your taste. And like yesterday, I was building a presentation, and I said, like, I need more graphics, and the graphics it produced was just so bad, right? I regretted asking it for graphics, right? And now you have to fire up another tool like Claude Design or something else to be able to do better graphics, and those tools obviously haven't been trained to do better charts or graphics. I'm sure they will. There's some minions at Anthropic are working on building better graphics. Of course, these minions are extremely highly paid and their equity is very, very valuable. But it's all people with taste building robots with taste right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we have there's these two kinds of expectations that's going on at the moment, which is that, first you're terrified of AI or you're a little bit suspicious that it can even do anything, the thing that you really want it to do. And so you go along and you start doing it. And then you're disappointed that it doesn't do the thing that you were expecting it was going to do, because either you've come in with this idea of AI can do everything and it's going to be able to create the pictures and it'll do this amazing presentation. It'll just know exactly what I want. And so there we have these kind of two attitudes.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm learning from you is this, the excitement about what can be done, but also a little bit of realism and a little bit of kind of level-headedness when looking at the technology and understanding that it has its limitations. We are in this process as well as things are still developing. We haven't quite got to the end of what this technology is. And so there's lots to be seen about how it's going to be used and what people are going to build based on it. And so, there's a lot of space for us to just keep a little calm and wait it out, ride out the wave as it's happening.
Stay calm and keep experimenting. Those.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's the message, isn't it?
Exactly. Okay, so my last question for you, Samir, is what fun thing have you been getting your AI agents to be doing for you whilst you sleep recently?
Yeah. One of the things that these agents are trying to do is I'm trying to see how those self-improvement loops of agents work, right?
Great.
There's been a lot of conversation about improving agents, and people have made all sorts of tall claims that the agents can improve themselves. They can find research, literature, and they can implement some of that, etc., etc. There've been a lot of claims about that, And I've been trying to get them to improve, in terms of mimicking somebody's writing style, right? Like, one of the things that is in high demand as a feature for IP author is like, hey, can it write like me, right? Like, can reproduce my writing style?
Yeah.
So, been running some experiments. We've been running a number of experiments along those lines and creating these self-improvement loops. And that has been a really interesting journey. The results have been middling, I would say, not spectacular. But there is cause for optimism right now. Our subject matter experts, the attorneys on the team are actually looking at the work product and saying, do they agree, right? Because the AI is telling me, it's there. It has produced something that it thinks. Oh, that reminds me of this thing, right? Somebody did a test and they gave like these LLMs write-ups, like I don't know if it was fiction or non-fiction, but they gave them write-ups written by humans and each of the different frontier models, right? So they gave Gemini a write-up that was done by a really accomplished writer, and one by Gemini, one by Claude, one by a ChatGPT. Guess which write-up did Gemini prefer of those four?
The human?
Nope.
No?
Just one more chance.
ChatGPT?
Its own.
Its own, of course.
Every single model preferred its own write-up, and none of them preferred the human write-up, even though the human write-up was like by far better, superior, because it was written by somebody with taste and expertise and all that.
Of course.
And so, my agents are telling me that they have cracked the code.
Of course.
Right? I'm waiting for the attorneys to confirm
to provide that confirmation. Well, of course. I mean, it's, I often feel like the LLMs are these sort of star students that just desperately want the gold star to be told that they've done a good job and they're on the right path and just approve of my work.
Yeah. The people who are training them are, they have won Nobel Prizes and so on. So, like their prize function or their reward function is like,
is quite
off
high.
the charts, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, maybe next week we'll be able to hear some more stories about whether it's improved that self-improving loop and a little bit more about what's coming in the world of AI and IP. Thank you very much.
Awesome.